Now I hope you are able to see the presentation. Are you able to see?
Yes, sir.
It is
Yes, sure.
ethics in research. So before we start today's lesson, I'll just conclude with yesterday's topic. We were discussing about the components of research, different terms, different concept variables. These are the research terms. And last one is the operational definition. So I have told you concept is the simplest one. Any idea, any abstract idea or anything can be called concept. Now construct is little complicated concept. Construct means again it is abstract, but it does not show any single object. There is no concrete reference. You need to explain it. Construct is a combination of different ideas. For example, empowerment, social status, social work, justice, peace. These are very complex concepts. You need to explain it so that people get better idea. That is construct. So researchers are mostly working about construct. Then this construct, there is another term called variable. Mainly there are two type of variable I have told you. One is dependent variables, another one is independent variable. Dependent and independent. Independent means rather permanent, not changing. For example, your age, your gender, caste. So these are by birth, it is some physiological characteristics or some cultural characteristics which does not change very easily. So these are independent variables. Dependent means which changes. For example, your attitude, your educational status, your income level. They are rather dependent on your independent status. Now, this independent and dependent variable, sometimes they are arbitrary, which means at one place one can become independent, another place the same thing can become dependent. For example, education. Now you are becoming MSW. You are all graduates. 2 years ago, 1 year ago, you were graduate. Now you are postgraduate. Your educational status has changed. Okay. But if we say your income, income is another variable. When I say hypothesis, your income is dependent on your education. Your income varies with your education. Then your education is the independent variable. It does not change easily. We say that MSW, then you are MSW forever. Then your job changes, you get better income, your economic status improves. So your occupation, your income is dependent on education. Then this education, which is otherwise dependent variable, has become independent variable in this hypothesis. Okay, so that's why researchers can decide which is dependent, which is independent. This is the researcher's freedom. Here we say operationalizing the definition. We cannot say that this education is always dependent variable. No, the researcher can define its the scope. The researcher can define the scope of all the terms, all the variables, concepts used in the research, in the hypothesis. So, it is the freedom of the researcher. Operation definition, the researcher's definition of the variable used in the research. Operation definition modifies and limits the general meaning of the variable. So this is what I concluded yesterday. So Now coming to today's topic, that is ethics in research, ethical consideration. This is very, very important topic. Based on this, I have created the research lab. Tomorrow we will visit the research lab. I have already uploaded the Google Classroom. Some of you might have visited that, but I told them no need of going there till I tell you. So once we complete this ethics part, we can go there and do some exercise, do some practice of psychological test. That's why research lab is created. You are the first batch to have this research lab, because this is the first time we have started medical and psychiatry specialization. For them, this lab is compulsory. Others, it is optional, because they are going to conduct psychological tests, and psychiatry social work cannot go without conducting some tests. So that's why we need the practice. So research lab is created for practicing psychological tests. Okay, now that you can start only after completing of today's lesson. Ethics in research, there are two subtopics. First subtopic is ethical consideration. Why there is a need for ethics in research? Ethics means what you should do, what you should not do, what is right, what is wrong. Okay, what you should do, what you should not do, that is ethics, ethical guidelines. Why ethical considerations are there for social work research? There are 6 points. First one is social work is a value-based profession. Value-based means social workers have got certain values. That you have already learned the individual dignity, individual freedom, social justice. So this is human relation-based profession. We deal with human beings. So we need to keep certain ethics, morality, certain confidentiality. So law is a value-based profession. Medicine is a value-based profession. Then nursing, teaching, all these humanitarian professions dealing with human beings. So they are all value-based profession. So social work is a value-based profession. So we need to have ethics in our profession. It is compulsory because it is a value-based profession. Second point, social work research deals with ethically sensitive data. What is this ethically sensitive data? So many private information, confidential information, they are ethically sensitive, which means the client will tell you something with a warning. I am telling this only to you. Don't tell this to my family member. Don't tell this to my wife, to my husband. We are dealing with ethically sensitive data. To a counselor, the clients tell so many things which are very sensitive, they share their problems with you, and you are not allowed to share this with the police, with the lawyer, with family members, with anybody else. Because social work researcher comes to know with lot of ethically sensitive data. Sometimes some criminal offense related data you have to keep sensitive. So that is why sensitive data, if it is known to the media, known to others, it can become an issue. So social work researchers must keep those things confidential. So number 3, the similar to the second one, deals with large volume of confidential data. Confidential, number 1, when you do the casework, last semester I have told you, and when you write the report, never disclose this person's name. That is confidential. That can bring sometime the person into shame or the person into some undesirable consequences. So that's why we deal large volume of confidential data. We interact with people tell something to you and you should keep it confidential. So even the research, when you do research, you collect lot of confidential data. Now need to cooperate with each other, with these practitioners and academicians. So there is a need, social workers have double stand. Double stand means they have two identity. They are both a practitioner and an academician. Now I am a teacher. You are a practitioner. I am also a practitioner. I go to the field, I supervise the students. Sometimes I interact with the agency people and share some of their responsibilities. So that is practice. Practice is mainly in NGO, in agency sector. Academician, that is in the school sector, school of social work, or in the college, the institution, the university. So how can I become a good academician? I must know what is in the practice, what is going on in the practice. So I must share, I must get data from the practitioner. Sometimes we call practitioners to the classroom. They share with you their experience. So there is a need for cooperation between practicing and the teaching. Unless the practitioners share their experience, the teaching cannot be perfect. Unless the teacher can teach what is in the practice, you cannot become a good practitioner. So there is a need to collect data from the field. I need to collect data so that I can become a good teacher. So there is a need for cooperation between practitioner and academician. So that is why ethical considerations are important. Need for sharing the research finding to promote profession. अगर जितना भी रिसर्च कर रहे, केस वर्क कर रहे, आपका डेटा हमारे पास नहीं आया, आपको रिपोर्टिंग नहीं आया, और रिपोर्ट अच्छी तरह हम पब्लिश नहीं करते हैं, then the profession will not grow. So even if it is confidential, even if it is very sensitive data, they need to be published. So how much can be published? How much can be used for teaching? How much can become the body of professional knowledge? अगर ये सेंसिटिव डाटा होगा, कॉन्फिडेंशियल होगा, लेकिन कुछ तो उसके ऊपर कुछ पब्लिकेशन आना चाहिए, तब स्टूडेंट्स को पता चलता है ऐसा इश्यू हो जाता है, केस वर्क में ऐसे प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है. So we can publish those information of the client, just hiding their name, taking their permission. So there is a need for sharing the data. So some ethical guidelines should be followed. Need to keep away from plagiarism. Sometimes what happens in publication, you keep copy paste others data, others research. So that is called plagiarism. To check the plagiarism, we need to follow this ethical consideration. So these are the 6 points, 6 consideration. Why do we need to follow ethics in social work research? These are the points. Okay. Now next, what are the ethical guidelines? Now comes real guidelines. What you should do, what you should not do. So there are 17 guidelines, very important. And how these guidelines are applied, I will show you tomorrow the practical. ये कैसे हम स्टेटमेंट बनाया है, लोगों से कैसे कंसर्न लेना है, इसका प्रैक्टिकल एक्सपीरियंस कल हम करेंगे. आज let us learn what are the ethical guidelines. Number 1, prior consent for collecting the data. It is called informed consent. अगर आप रिसर्च कर रहे हैं, डेटा कलेक्शन के लिए जा रहे हैं, पहले आपको पूछना है लोगों को, आपसे इंटरव्यू कर सकते हैं, आपका इंफॉर्मेशन कलेक्ट कर सकते हैं क्या? विदाउट परमिशन यू कैन नॉट कलेक्ट डेटा. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड प्रायर कंसेंट. I'll just go through very quickly, then I will answer to some of your queries because there are 17 points. Consent about the nature, extent and duration of the participation requested. अगर आप एक टेस्ट कर रहे हैं, एक डेटा कलेक्शन कर रहे हैं, उनको पूछना है ये किसके लिए है, कितना टाइम होगा, ड्यूरेशन कितना है, और हाउ मच दे हैव टू डिस्क्लोज, कितना इंफॉर्मेशन उसको देना पड़ेगा, ये आपको पहले उनको बताना पड़ेगा. डिस्क्लोजर ऑफ द रिस्क एंड बेनिफिट ऑफ द पार्टिसिपेशन रिसर्च. लोग हमेशा पूछते हैं, अगर हम आपका संशोधन में भाग लेते हैं, हमें क्या मिलेगा? व्हाट इज द बेनिफिट? अगर कोई भी बेनिफिट नहीं है, पहले बताना है आपको इसमें कुछ बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेंगे. इसमें कोई पैसा आपको मिलने वाला नहीं है। अगर आप पार्टिसिपेट, इसमें कुछ रिस्क है क्या? अगर आप मेरे से डेटा कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं, आप कोई रिस्क इन्फॉर्म करने वाला है क्या? व्हाट इज द रिस्क? सो रिस्क एंड बेनिफिट हैव टू बी डिस्क्लोज्ड। ओके, then number 4, obtain written consent from an appropriate proxy, special participant। अगर कोई पार्टिसिपेंट ऐसा होगा mentally challenged participant, any participant below 18 years of age, उनका कंसेंट सफिशिएंट नहीं है, उनका पेरेंट्स का, अगर ऑर्फन है उनका केयर टेकर, उनका केयर गिवर, उनका जो इंस्टीट्यूशन का हेड, उसका परमिशन लेना है। स्कूल से आपको डेटा कलेक्शन करना है, प्रिंसिपल्स का परमिशन जरूर लेना है। सो दिस इज कॉल्ड प्रॉक्सी, अप्रोप्रिएट प्रॉक्सी, जो स्टूडेंट्स को खुद परमिशन देने को, they can't give the permission, they are not eligible, their permission is not valid, they are minor, then you need somebody proxy permission, that is called the parents permission, teachers permission. Avoid conflict of interest and dual relationship with the participants, resolved in the participants interest. अगर participants are आपका पापा मम्मी, आपका बेटा बेटी, grandfather grandmother, so that is called dual relationship. You are a professional, you are a researcher. At the same time, you are a mother, you are a father, you are a brother, you are a sister. So there is a problem of conflict of interest. You are personally related and there is a professional relation. So there can be conflict in this interest. As a father, you cannot ask this question to your son. As a child, you cannot ask this question to your mother, but as a professional, you can ask. So there can be a conflict. Then you must resolve it in the participant's interest. Participants को you must take what is the best for the participant. वो आपको लेना है. So number 5, freedom to withdraw cooperation at any time. अगर आप रिसर्च कर रहे हो, क्लाइंट को कभी भी विड्रॉ करने का परमिशन देना है. बीच में 10, आप देखो उसमें 15 सवाल है, 10 सवाल के बाद में बता रहे ना मुझे अच्छा नहीं लगता है, इसको सारे सवाल को जवाब मैं नहीं दे सकता हूँ. I want to leave this research. You must give them permission. So there is a 100% freedom for the client to withdraw during the research. At any point of time, he can withdraw, she can withdraw the permission and he can leave the research. That permission should be there. Keep the identity confidential or anonymous. लोगों को नाम पूछना नहीं है. अगर पूछ लिया तो वो नाम कभी भी कोई भी रिसर्च में पब्लिश होना नहीं चाहिए. Name is confidential. Their identity should be kept anonymous. बताना नहीं चाहिए, किसी पार्टिसिपेंट का नाम डिस्क्लोज नहीं होगा. Protect the participants from stress, harm, danger or deprivation. अगर रिसर्च में उन्होंने पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे, उसका स्ट्रेस होगा, हार्म उसको महसूस हो रहे, कुछ डेंजर, डिप्राइवेशन, उसका कुछ बेनिफिट मिल रहा है गवर्नमेंट से, वो रुक गया, ऐसा सिचुएशन नहीं होना चाहिए. पार्टिसिपेंट्स को स्ट्रेस नहीं आना चाहिए आपको रिसर्च की वजह से. परमिशन टू पब्लिश द इंफॉर्मेशन, वो आपको परमिशन पूछना है. अगर आप उसका रिसर्च कर रहे हो, उसको पब्लिश करना चाहते हो, वो पब्लिकेशन का परमिशन आपको पूछना है पहले से. रिपोर्ट रिसर्च फाइंडिंग्स एक्यूरेटली, डू नॉट फैब्रिकेट, एक्नॉलेज प्रॉपर रिसोर्स. अगर रिसर्च में जो क्लाइंट आपको बताए उतना ही आपको पब्लिश करना है, ज्यादा नहीं पब्लिश करना है. डोंट ओवर रिपोर्ट, डोंट फैब्रिकेट, डोंट फर्निश फॉल्स इंफॉर्मेशन. सच जैसे बताना है. अगर प्रॉपर रिसोर्स, अगर आपने किसी सेकेंडरी सोर्स से आपने डेटा कलेक्शन कर रहे हैं, सेकेंडरी डेटा, फिर आपको प्रॉपर सोर्स वहां देना है. क्रिएट लोकली यूजफुल लिटरेचर, आपने जो रिसर्च कर रहे हैं उसका पब्लिकेशन करना ही है. देन यू आर बिकम ए गुड रिसर्चर. आप रिसर्च कर दिया, डेटा कलेक्शन कर दिया, उसके ऊपर कुछ काम नहीं करते, दैट इज नॉट ए गुड रिसर्च प्रैक्टिस. यूजफुल लिटरेचर, लोगों को फायदा होना चाहिए आपके रिसर्च के, इसलिए बता रहे आप रिसर्च कर रहे, आप डेटा कलेक्शन किया, उसके ऊपर कुछ पब्लिकेशन करो, कुछ न्यूज़पेपर में कुछ प्रेस रिलीज करना है. कुछ पेपर लिखना है उसके ऊपर, प्रेजेंटेशन करना है. So let the people get benefit, larger public get benefit from your research. Cooperate with the colleague. आपका दोस्त होगा, उनको कॉपरेट करना है. अगर आपके पास अच्छा डेटा है, उसको उन्होंने एक पेपर लिख रहे हैं, यू कैन शेयर योर डेटा विथ योर कॉलीग, योर क्लासमेट. पार्टिसिपेट इन कोलैबोरेटिव पॉलिसी रिसर्च. गवर्नमेंट के साथ देना है. अगर गवर्नमेंट को जरूरत है आपका रिसर्च का फाइंडिंग उनका यूज करना है, यू मस्ट शेयर योर डेटा विद द गवर्नमेंट. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड पॉलिसी रिसर्च. पॉलिसी रिसर्च. अटेंड प्रोफेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंसेस एंड शेयर रिसर्च बेस्ड नॉलेज. जो हम सेमिनार हो रहे हैं उसमें पार्टिसिपेट करना है. नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस हो रहे हैं, इंटरनेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस हो रहा है, आपने रिसर्च किया, आपको रिसर्च के ऊपर पेपर पब्लिश करना है, वहां उसको आपको प्रेजेंट करना है. इवैल्यूएशन रिसर्च फॉर एविडेंस बेस्ड प्रैक्टिस. आपको कुछ गवर्नमेंट का योजना चल रहे है, प्रोग्राम चल रहे, उसको इवैल्यूएशन करो. वो इवैल्यूएशन के ऊपर वो प्रोग्राम का अच्छी तरह उसका मॉनिटरिंग हो जाएगा. वो प्रोग्राम का फायदा लोगों को कितना तक मिला उसके ऊपर लोगों को पता चलेगा. अगर फॉर एग्जाम्पल अभी कोविड का बहुत सारे स्कीम्स निकला है, गवर्नमेंट बहुत सारे 50 लाख तक फ्रंट लाइन वर्कर को दे रहे हैं उसका. अगर somebody फ्रंट लाइन वर्कर का डेथ हो गया, उसके फैमिली को बहुत सारे मदद कर रहे हैं. कोई घर में कोई ऑफन हो गया. सो बहुत सारे स्कीम्स निकल गए. आप उसके लिए भी काम करता होगा, आप किसी को मदद करता होगा. अगर आपने इसके ऊपर रिसर्च करना चाहते हैं, ये मदद के वजह से कितना फायदा हो गया लोगों को, सो आपको रिसर्च कर सकते हैं इसके ऊपर. और रिसर्च का फाइंडिंग्स जो होगा, दैट शुड बी वेरी गुड एविडेंस. इट कैन बेस्ड ऑन दैट teachers, we can, I have if you are a teacher, if you can then I can use your findings in my class. I can tell that देखिए इतना रिसर्च हो गया, समझ में आ गया, ये ऑर्फन के लिए इतना स्कीम निकाला, लेकिन वो इसका फायदा जितना मिलना चाहिए उतना मिला नहीं. So there should be evaluation for all the government schemes, so that there can be evidence based practice. उसके ऊपर अच्छी तरह प्रैक्टिस हो सकते हैं, उसके ऊपर अच्छी तरह टीचिंग हो सकते हैं. नंबर 16, इंटरवेंशन रिसर्च फॉर प्रैक्टिस बेस्ड नॉलेज. इंटरवेंशन रिसर्च मीन्स क्या है? आप जो फील्ड वर्क कर रहे हैं, केस वर्क कर रहे हैं, ग्रुप वर्क कर रहे हैं, कम्युनिटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, उसके ऊपर रिसर्च करना चाहिए. विच इज कॉल्ड इंटरवेंशन रिसर्च. जो सोशल वर्क जो भी कर रहे हैं, दैट इज कॉल्ड इंटरवेंशन. इंटरवेंशन के ऊपर रिसर्च होना चाहिए, वो रिसर्च के ऊपर लिखना चाहिए, पब्लिकेशन करना चाहिए. देन इंटरवेंशन के ऊपर रिसर्च किया तो नॉलेज बढ़ेगा. अच्छी तरह एकेडमिशियंस आपका उसके अनुसार आपका केस वर्क प्रैक्टिस इंप्रूव हो सकता है, कम्युनिटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इंप्रूव हो सकते हैं. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड प्रैक्टिस बेस्ड नॉलेज. लास्ट पॉइंट, educate themselves, their students and their colleague about responsible research practices. अभी क्या है? लास्ट पॉइंट क्या है? educate themselves means researcher, their student. That means generally researchers are PhD level research, they may be teaching, so their students. If I am doing my research, my students, and their colleague, my colleague, other teachers, other faculty members, about responsible research practice. So this is another guideline. If I am a teacher, I must tell my students what is the guideline, what they should do when they do their research. Okay, educating the next generation about the ethical guidelines is another important ethical guideline. Okay, so that is all the first unit. We have completed the first unit.